Hello everyone on YouTube. This is Rex Red. I am here with a tutorial, and this tutorial is about what to do with your song once you have it rendered. Once you have made your song in Cakewalk. I have to double check and make sure my stream. This is going to be it's not going to be incredibly long, but this may be an hour for me to show you this stuff because I want to be thorough. That's what I do, is I give you every bit of information. So if you say, well, I knew that, but I didn't know this, okay? And I'm going to give you every bit of information, and was made aware of today that by one of my fans or subscribers that nobody has made a video about this. If somebody has, it's not very evident. So what I got to do is just make sure that my audio is fine, because it's going to be an hour. I don't want to be talking for an hour and end up with a video that is going to not be audible. Okay, that's the whole point of this. So come on. Alright, we'll go to my channel, and it says I'm live. Let's see if the audio's good. Okay, that's the whole point of this. So alright, it is good. There we go. All right. Now, here is your track view, and this is a song that I've made. And as you can see, this song has a lot of tracks. Okay. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it has a lot of MIDI tracks, and it has a lot, and they're just like little things in each track. That come and go. It's quite a complex song. This song took me 3 days to make. That was pretty much working in my spare time. I didn't even watch TV on those 3 days. I did watch a few YouTube channels briefly here and there, and of course I did other things like eat and sleep and do a little bit of research here and there on certain things. Working with my synths, writing in my forums, just little things here and there. But this was like some pretty heavy duty work. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to address is mixing versus mastering. Okay, now a lot of people, they make a song like this, and they have all their tracks like this, all their tracks in there. I guess I can minimize this here. These are all of the tracks in the song. And so now these top tracks are all music, like arpeggios and bass and chord tracks. And then these tracks here down at the bottom are all solo tracks. So they're like little melodies. So you could say this is homophony up here is the homophony, and this is the polyphony down here. Okay, and then this little section down here are vocal ad-libs. Okay, so I know you don't really need to know that information, but like I said, this is going to be a long video. So you're going to learn things that you didn't know, and some things that you are going to learn now. Okay, and something I have to do here, this cuts off too quickly, so I'm going to just bring that out so that it goes to the end of my fade here. Okay, now so what a lot of people do is they get their song finished. Now I want to hear the end of this. Just to make sure the drum beat goes okay, because it was cutting off. It was like all of a sudden, boom. It's like, all right. So what a lot of people do is, and there are two schools, okay? One group will make the song in Cakewalk. They'll get their mix done. And then what they'll do is render the song down into either a WAV file or an MP3. And then they'll create a new project in Cakewalk with a new name. Then they'll import that WAV file into Cakewalk, and then they'll master it. And the thing is with me, and so that's one process, one school of thought in how to make music in Cakewalk. Now, the other school of thought is where you get your instruments, your main instruments, like your drums and bass and your vocals in, and then you slap on top of that your mastering, some of your mastering tools, okay? And so that you mix and master, not necessarily at exactly the same time, because you do your tracking pretty much. You get your basic tracks in, and not all of them, just the basic ones, like your bass, your drums, and maybe your vocals and some chords. Like 4 tracks, you get 4 or 5 tracks, your main tracks in. And once those tracks are in, then you slap on the mastering stuff on top of that. And you get those tracks kind of mixed just about roughly where you want them to be. And then you slap on the mastering. And then if you need to add more tracks, what you do is you turn off your mastering. You right-click in here in your master bus where you put all your mastering stuff, most of your mastering stuff, and you bypass. You click bypass effects racks of this type, and it just turns them all off. But what happens is, because your mastering stuff usually cranks up the volume of your tracks, it maximizes them, it turns them down. So what you have to do is go to your DAW and turn up your DAW so you can hear your tracks, and then you can add more tracks. And then once you're done adding the tracks, you right click here and you uncheck the bypass the effects rack, and you turn your mastering tools back on, and then you turn down your DAW. Okay? That is how I do it. And the reason why I do it that way is because I am constantly refining the music, and that idea of making a cementing the mix into a WAV file and then going in and mastering it. When I get that all done and I do all of this mastering stuff to that WAV file, and then I go in and I notice it's like the organ is just way too loud in this. So I'll go back and I'll remaster it. Then that changes all of those mastering techniques. When all I really need to do is go in and turn the organ down, and I have all of my mastering stuff still already set. I don't have to go and mix that down, put it into a file on my desktop, create a new thing, add all my mastering effects, add all the buses, add all that stuff, or replace the file or whatever. That whole process. Now, there is one rub to doing it this way, and that is you have to have a fast computer, okay? But I will tell you that I did a lot of mixing and mastering simultaneously with a 4-core computer. Okay, it was, and they were weak cores, and it only had 266 megahertz RAM. Now the RAM in my computer has 3000 megahertz. So that's how little the RAM, how slow the RAM was in that computer, and it only had 4 very slow cores. My current computer has 12 very fast cores. And so, and that 4-core computer, they were not hyper-threaded. So that was just 4 cores. But with just 4 cores and really slow RAM, I was able to mix and master simultaneously. But I wasn't able to add every kind of effect and everything I wanted to on every track. But I made do. I added what I wanted to do. Now, if you have an i7 computer, like with 4 cores multi-threaded, and usually an i7 has like much faster RAM than 266 megahertz. It usually, has like 1,000 or 2,000 megahertz RAM, or even higher. So you'd be able to do much more than what I did for years on a much slower computer, and still mix and master. And you really you want to have your files on a solid state drive, your projects on a solid state drive. Okay, so you want to have a solid state drive, you want to have as many cores as you can get, and you want to have the fastest RAM you can have. And you should, even with a fairly, like an $800 computer or whatever, brand new, you should be able to comfortably mix and master at the same time, okay? With Cakewalk. So that is what I recommend doing, is mixing and mastering at the same time. So you get your tracks in, and they're not going to change once you pretty much get the mix set. So there's no reason why you can't just slap your mastering tools right on top of that. And you know what? It doesn't, this whole idea of adding a whole rack of mastering tools, you don't need to do that. As long as your tracks sound good. Like this track right here, I only have two mastering tools sitting on this whole track. 2 of them, okay? And it looks like I've got 3, but this tonal balance, this is just a meter, okay, that tells me where my bass, mids, and highs and lows are, okay? So I don't need to have, and so I'll play this and show you what this does here. So, see, so this tells me that all of the most famous songs in the world, they are usually in these areas here, okay? And if the bass goes up above here, that's a no-no. If the mids go up here or below here, that's a no-no. The same with these highs. Pretty much, okay? All right, so this is just a, it just gives me, and so they kind of jump around because there's so many instruments all coming in. See, this is, now, that's one of my mastering tools. And so I also have Ozone 9, okay? And Ozone 9 has this maximizer, which kind of squishes the top of the music down. And the EQ, which just looks at some of the areas that, might be kind of like ear sores, make your ears sore. And it just kind of attenuates them. It looks at them and says, these parts might be a little bit harsh. And then the equalizer kind of gives a basic curve. Okay, so that is one tool. And all I did was hit this master assist, and I told it to automatically do that. Okay? okay? And I'm happy with what it did, okay? And then this fab filter, this kind of squishes the top of the music too, but I use this mostly as a brick wall filter, okay? So I use it mostly just to stop the music. It's like a brick wall at the top of the music. It doesn't allow anything to ever go past that. It's a brick wall, okay? So that's pretty much it. That's my mastering. Because if you have everything you do should, other than just kind of, and if you notice this down here, this waveform, and you get this waveform, if you click on this little icon here, if you turn it off, it goes away, and so you hear the music play, but you don't get to see the waveform. But if your graphics card, which even a cheap graphics card can do this, okay? And so you click that on, and then it shows you your waveform, and you can see here that my mastering tools are kind of chopping a little bit off the top of this, okay? And what that does is it allows it takes a little bit of the fidelity out of the things that pop up above your music. It does cut some of the sound out of your music, but what it does, it also brings like the core of the song up a little bit, so that when it plays, see, I can bring this down, and as you can see now, it's not chopping but then this is the core of the song down here in this area, and see if I bring this up a little bit, you see, then it flattens the song out and brings the core of the song up a little closer. Now, you may not like that. It's up to you. It's something that I do. All right, it's something that I do. And I don't do it in every case. Sometimes usually I'm like this, where I only like a little bit of it. But since this is kind of like a dance song, I want it to be flattened out a little bit, okay? Just what I chose to do in this case. All right. So that's it for mastering. And so pretty much I put Ozone on, and I told Ozone to do it automatically, and it went through the automatic thing. And then and so that did a little bit of balancing out of the song. How am I getting the master bus view? Okay, very good question, okay? It's hidden down here, okay? So the master bus view, there's a little bit of a lag, Steve. So if you put the question out, you'll have to wait about a minute before or a minute before you'll hear my response. But I will try to respond to all. See, you have to put your mouse down here, okay? This is called the bus, the bus, master bus, yes, view, yeah? And that is down here. And you put your mouse over this bottom section in here, and you drag it up, okay? And you'll see it changes to this like equal sign with two arrows above it, and you drag it up, okay? And if you right click here, you can add insert buses, and you see I deleted, after I used the metronome, there's a metronome bus in here and there's a preview bus. I never use the preview bus, so I just delete that immediately. And so then you right click and you can insert a stereo bus, okay? You don't need the surround bus unless you're doing surround, and you'll probably never do surround. I mean, unless you're making movies for Hollywood or something like that, and you'd have to have a lot of powerful gear to do that. So it's always insert a stereo bus, okay? Now these, if you see, I put my mouse over these and I can drop these down, okay? So as you noticed in my files, and so I have 3 buses that I created, plus the master bus is the default bus. So if you create a bus in here, it will automatically route out to the master bus. Okay, so you don't have to change that. Okay, so that's if you right click and you see set as default bus, but that's automatically the master bus is always the default bus. Okay, and in the master bus you have your effects bin, and that is where you put your mastering effects. And like I said, I wouldn't put mastering effects in here until you have your bass and your drums and your vocals and your chords laid in. You're going to put a bunch of other tracks, but I would wait until you have those laid down in the song, okay? Then you put your mastering. Then you can put some things to squish the music and kind of bring it out a little bit more and give it a little bit more presence and all those things that mastering tools do, okay? So, but I would not put them on. I would mix and master at the same time. You don't want to export it to your desktop until it's so when you export it to your desktop, the mixing and mastering will all be done simultaneously in one mix down. Okay. All right. So now, if you look at the structure of this song, okay, I'm going to bring this in. All right. You will notice, okay, again, now this is the end of the song about here, or well, it's out here, okay, is the end of the song. But you'll notice now all of these tracks that these tracks are all pads and arpeggios, okay? So they are going, so in the track view here, I bring this down and the wave part of it. Yes, you're very welcome. And this video once it's done streaming, you can come back to it. I think it might take about a day to process. And it's in 4K, so you can come back to this stream and use it and go back for reference until it all sticks on how to do this. Now, as you can see, this track here, this is one of my, it's a card called arpeggio beep. This is an arpeggio oomp. This is arpeggio mouth harp. This is arpeggio runner. See, I just gave them kind of a pad wind. Okay, these are all the music part of the song, okay? It's like the background, and then down here are the solos that sit on top where this got all the kind of like techno stuff going on in the background, but it's got a melody going over top, okay? So I have all of the you don't have to do this at first. You can just kind of throw things in when you want. But then towards the end, it's kind of nice to go back and drag these tracks around and put them in order of when they kind of appear in the song. And so the top ones are all the music part. This bottom section is all of the arpeggios, all of the melody parts, and then this part down here is all of the voice parts, okay? Then down here, I have the same thing. I have music, so I have all of these music parts up here that are the background kind of music and the beat, the basic beat, and all of these kind of chords and arpeggios, they're all in the background. They all go to the music section. So I use this little part of the track here and send it out. It's by default, it's sent out to the master. But instead, you can see I've got it sent to the music bus. All right. So if the background music isn't loud enough or it's too loud, I can just come down here and with one knob, with one slider, bring the volume down or up, okay? And the same with all the solos. I try to make the solos as the song is going on so that the volume goes from one solo to the next solo and they're all consistent. It doesn't like one solo's really loud and the next, and then I compress them all so that they go from one little melody like into the next section, which is kind of like another little groove, and that one has its own melody. And then you go to another section of the song, which is every 4 or 5 bars, things change, okay? And so there's another melody for that section. And I try to make the melodies flow, and I use these volumes here, and I use these volume envelopes, these green envelopes, to make sure that the volumes. So you can see some of these. I use these green envelopes to just kind of sculpt the volume so that they all go. Each one has a volume level that flows into, and then all of them go out of here, all right, see, into the solos bin, okay, so that if the solos are a little too loud, I can bring them down, and they're down here in this bin area where it says solos. And then I have one more section here where, okay, see, because the solos sit on top of the homophony, okay, and the solos sit on top of the homophony of all, on top of the chords in the background and the drum beat and everything. The solos have to peak just a little bit. They have to nestle in to the homophony, okay? And so the solos sit on top of the homophony, but they sort of also nestle into that, okay? And then I have these vocal lines, and they are all routed. You know, each track, each vocal track here, you'll see, is routed down to vocals. And you'll see down here that I have a vocals bus, okay? And they're all going out to the master, okay? So all three of these are going out to the master. But now the beautiful thing about this is the vocals have to sit on top of these melodies, okay? So you have the melodies sitting on top of the homophony, and then you have the vocals sitting on top of the melodies. And the way I do that is I go to the music here, and I take the compressor. There's a stock compressor. When you click on this and you open up the Pro channel, and that can be hidden off in the side here, but if you click on these little bars, it'll open up the Pro channel. And I right click and it says replace module, and normally this module is there, okay? And what I do is I replace it with this one, with this compressor, and this compressor has this little button here, okay? This little enable on, and this is where the magic happens, okay? Is that I put this compressor on the music channel, and I put it on the solos channel. So when I click on solos, you can see both of them have it, okay? It's actually switching every time when I switch here, it's changing and showing. And both of these channels have this little button pushed up, okay? And what that allows me to do is the music has it, and the vocals don't. Okay, the vocals, see, they have the default one, and I don't even have that turned on. That doesn't get used. But the music, okay, see, I want the solos, I don't want them sitting on top of the music, because the music will walk all over it, okay? It will walk all over the solos, all right? So I don't want the vocals sitting on top of the solos, because those little bits of music and little things will just kind of stick up. They'll rear their head up, and they'll walk all over the vocals from the solos. So I'll have the music walking on the solos and the solos walking on the vocals. I don't want that. I want the solos to like carve a path, like the Ice Age did to the fjords, okay? It's like it carved a path right through the fjords, okay? I want the solos to carve a path through the music. I don't want them both mixed together. I want it to move the mountains right out of the way, okay? And that's how you do this, is by using this side chain, okay? And so what you do is you put this compressor on the music, okay, here, and you set the attack low, you set the release to here, and then you set the threshold so that, now you'll see how this is working actually. Now, right now, that electric piano, those chords, the melodies are cutting themselves out of this. And see what I did, the way I did this was, you see there's no, for the music, there's no channel send, okay? So what I did was I right click here and insert send, and I sent it to the music, okay? So what that does is, instead of this compressor on the music working for the music, it takes it away from the music and instead works as this kind of mediator to, I know this sounds complicated, but it's actually, once you learn this, it's so simple to use, okay? And instead of them getting mixed together, what happens is this, I send this, the solos are being cut out of the music, okay? It's cutting a path out through the music, okay? And then I did the same thing, and so I right click, insert send, and I clicked on the music, okay? And so it put a send to cut this out of the music, so you put the compressor on the music, okay? You switch it to this one that has this little knob, okay? It's one of the compressors. And you put this same compressor on your solos, because I'm going to cut the vocals out of the solos, okay? And and if you hear this, then you'll notice that, like, the chords, when it first starts, there's some electric piano chords that just start out. They're very crystal clear because the music is they're cutting only themselves out of the music. So there's no banding, okay? But if you hear the vocal is cutting itself out of the solo, out of the chords, out of the electric piano, out of the Rhodes chords, okay? The vocal, so it's not, so you're still hearing the chords, but you're only seeing the mountains on each side of the vocal. You're only hearing the chords around the vocal. You're not hearing the ones, so they're not just going right through each other like they're a transparency. It's actually cutting a path through each one. So the solos cuts a path through the music, and the vocals cut a path through the solos. There are probably other ways of doing this, but this is a way to do this with everything that already is in Cakewalk. You get this compressor, it's in Cakewalk, and you don't insert it, okay? Because you have to replace it, okay? Because you can only have one compressor at a time here of these type of compressors. So the only way to put this compressor is it'll have a stock compressor, and you have to replace that. And when you click on replace, you'll see it there, and you can tell it's there because you'll see this little kind of switch on the little picture, okay? And you'll know. So you put the compressor on the music and you put it on the solos. Then you insert a send, and you send that to the music one, okay? You won't see that music send if this button is down. You won't be able to send it. But if you toggle this button up, it's by default it's off, so it's in the bottom position. And so you right click, and then once that's toggled on both of these tracks, then you right click in the solos, because you want the solo to cut through the music, and you insert that send on the music. And then you go to the vocals and you right click, and as you notice, I have a send down here also. And this send, if you right click and click send, you'll see I can send that to the solos. So the vocals cut a fjord out of the solos, okay? And that enables you to have your solos sit in the music, not on top. And that's what you don't want. You don't want them so loud that they're on top, and then your music is, when you listen to it like on a radio or over the radio or something, all you're going to hear is the vocal or the solos. You're not going to hear the music in the background because they're sitting on top of each other, and the solo has to sit in the music. And if you lower that enough, the music will just band, what's called banding. Those same frequencies will blot out your solos, and so you'll get banding, and your solos won't be clear, and then also it's the same with the vocals. You can't have the vocals sit on top of the solos. They have to sit in them like a glacier would sit in the fjord, and on top it's nice and flat, you know? So that's what you need, okay? So, oh, just a minute. I have a phone call. I have to take this. Hello? Yes, I'm good. How are you? Wonderful. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm getting my braces out, and I have a lot going on. So, all right. So, cutting the vocals out. I hope you can hear me. I'm back. I'm back. Okay. So, uh, so that's just now. If you want to know a little bit more about this, some of my other videos, I think I may have actually deleted a bunch of them. I had to move them, take a bunch of my videos down from my other channel so that my other channel will be just the romance videos, and this is going to be all of my uh, tutorial videos will be on this channel. So from now on, so okay, just to give you an idea of this side chaining and how that works. And so I also have the I clicked on the insert send, and I sent this to the solos compressor. Okay, and then once again with the solos compressor, as you can see, I brought the attack down to here. I brought the release up to here. So it will attack quickly, it will cut out like quickly. It's not going to like be partially transparent when the vocal comes in. I want the vocal to instantly, I don't want the beginnings of words or sounds or the beginnings of the solos to be kind of muffled. I want them to come right in, and then I want them to sort of leave a fairly good trail. I don't want the music, as soon as the solo's done playing, I don't want the music to come blast in. I want it to slowly come in. So I want the release to be, and I usually don't touch this makeup because, and now on this, now you see when the vocals come in here, I'll show you. I never have them go above this 4 dB, okay? So, see? Maybe a little bit, but see, so, and the same with the solos here. Now here's the solo. See how the solo is all under 4 dB. All right, and now the reason why I don't have them go above 4 dB is because if you have it go any more, it's just going to literally shut the background music off. It's going to cut such a hole, there won't be any fjord left, okay? It's just going to cut such a wide margin through that it's going to obscure the background music, the drums, everything, okay? So, you don't ever want them to go above 4 dB, okay, of a cut, okay, and that's true with any compressor. I don't bring a compressor up above 4 dB. I never compress more than 4 dB on anything, and the reason why is because it creates like a pumping feel that you can hear if you have a trained ear. And it's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant sound, okay? It colors the sound too much and all that, okay? It's something a trained ear can hear. So so even in these channels, all of these channels have compressors on them, and they never go up above. See this one right here. See, never goes up above 4. All right. You never compress more than 4K, and I always put the attack high and the release about here, so that should make your job simple. I never add more than the 4 to 0, 4 to 1, I guess, ratio. I never go to 8 or 12 or any of those, not for anything. I just don't need to compress the heck out of anything that much, okay? Most of the stuff is good. So, all right. So that is your lesson on mixing and mastering together. I thought I would cover that part also, okay? And mixing is it's just, it's up to you on what you want to sound at what time. But anything that's, your bass always gets, your lower bass drum always gets cut off, at below the hearing range. You chop those parts off, and most of your pads you don't want them going down in the bass range. All of them, except the bass drum and bass are down in the bass range. So you don't want any of these pads going down into the bass and bass drum range. Okay, so all right. So now what happens is, all right, you get your song done, and what I usually do is now here in this area, you click this so you can see your wave, and then you can see where the song kind of, where you want to end the song. You say, okay, up in this area here, I want the song to fade out. All right. Well, you see, if you right click here in this area in a blank spot, well, it's not working. Okay, let's select this. Oh no, it's click the middle mouse wheel, okay, and then you click this little click the mouse wheel in this blank area. Then you select this and you go to automation, and you select bus output volume, and this bus output volume is you never raise that above 0. That always stays at 0. Your master bus output is always at 0. You never change that. So that, because if it's like 0.1, then your brick limiter won't work. Okay, everything's going to touch that. There'll be 1 above your brick limiter. Okay, and so you don't want. So you always want this output in your master at 0. Okay, and then when you get to the end here, so you click on this thing and you go bus output, and you add the bus output volume, okay, and that's this envelope, okay, that's this. And as you notice, it's all at 0 here. This is 0, okay. It shows you that this goes all the way back to 0, back to the beginning of your song, okay. So it's 0 all the way through until you get to the fade, okay. And you can fade you can fade your tracks, okay, and sometimes I do that anyway, but I actually like to fade the master, okay. Some famous music, very like who mastered and mixed a whole bunch of people's from New York, who was very, very famous and sound engineer, said, "Oh, I always fade fade the master bus." And you can fade your other tracks, okay, and then you don't have to fade the master bus. This can just stay at 0 and everything gets quiet. But I kind of like fading the master bus because it just it's a little bit cleaner. And then if I don't like the sound of the fade, like something sticks out, like, oh, the drum doesn't fade quite as fast as this, then I can come up here and just add a fade on the drums and add, fade whatever. And when you right click, so you click here and then you hold this control key and you put another one and you drag this little dot down, and it allows you to, this node down, it allows you to put a fade. Then you right click on this and say fast curve, okay. A slow curve is like this, okay, and a fast curve is like that. And you'd say, well, if you use a slow curve, it kind of like, it's the exact opposite of what you'd want a fade to do. It's like it kind of plays loud and then just goes off like quick. But this one kind of like drops down sort of quick and then slowly fades out the rest, okay? This is what you don't want just a straight line, okay? You want, because that's the linear phase, okay? You want a fast curve fade, okay? And this will give you, and you have to experiment on how long you want it, you know? How do you want to fade it, from here down with the low curve, or from here? That's up to you, okay? So listen to it. Listen to the fade, but never change this. This has to stay at 0, okay? Or your brick wall limiter won't work right. What'll happen is, it will, every place it goes and hits zero, it's going to hit 0.1 instead, and then you'll get all of these sections, these little like pink lines that show you that it distorted, okay? So this output volume always stays at 0. Okay. All right. Now, I'm getting there. That's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to show you how to clean up your song, okay? And so a lot has to do with mastering it. You know, we're at sort of in the mastering area, okay? But we're getting there. Okay. Now what happens is, now what you do is you click on one of these tracks, any one, okay? Even as long as you click somewhere in this area, not this area, okay? That's the whole point. Is if I click here and I go Control A, it selects everything down here, okay? It didn't select all my tracks, it selected all my buses, okay? But if I come up here and I select one of these tracks and then Control A, as you see, it didn't select the master, okay? But it didn't select the buses down here. It selected the tracks. And that's what you need, is you need to select all of the tracks that you want to turn into a WAV file, okay? So you hold control, so you select one of these tracks, you just click in any one just to make sure that you're in this area instead of this area, okay? So, and you'll know if it works. You'll know if it works because when you hit control, and when you hold the control key and hit A once, let's unselect these. Let's select here, okay? Now I'm still selected in this area. I still have this area selected. So I hold control and hit A once, and you'll know if they all select, because you'll see all of these tracks turn kind of gray, and then they'll turn whitish like this. And that tells you that all of the tracks in your song are selected, okay? Now, what happens is 9 times out of 10, it's going to select further than the end of your song. Like, notice this. See, notice how they select right up to where the silence is. That means that no track has an event further than the end here, okay? All right, now, but what happens is, while you're making your tracks, usually sometimes you'll like record over a little bit, and sometimes you'll even record quite a bit over. Like you'll have a drum beat and you don't know how long the song is, so you'll make the drum beat like way out here or something, and the song ends. Well, if you hit Control A, it's going to select that drum beat all the way out to there, and then you're going to have a big long silence at the end of your song, okay? And that is not good. So you have to go through, and if you notice now, all of these green lines, what I did was I went through every track, and this is the manual way to fix that, okay? Is to go through every track and then select this thing and this little icon here with the, like, kind of looks like an A and a V next to each other with little dots. That drops down your envelope view, and that will tell you. Now if you have an event like a little node out here. When I select A, see, it selects way out to there. All right, and that's like almost like a second. Let's listen to the end. Now listen to the end, and you see, it looks like, oh, that's not that much longer on the song, but actually now we're at our silence, and you gotta wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait before the next song even, and there's going to be a measure in the beginning of the next song. So if you're going to want you've got to make sure the event is roughly about where you want it, and I would say about there is probably a couple seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. See, so even that is several bars. So we can say here, all right, delete that. So you have to make sure you have one event here, a node where you want the song, and then you select control, hold control, hit A, and you'll notice now it selects to there, all right? And that is going to be the end of your song. Now, there's a new way to fix that problem, because what happens is sometimes, like if you have an event like your drum track goes out here, then all of your tracks are going to put like an end little node right where the drum track ends. So you have to go through every track and delete that node and make sure that there's no event. There can't be any kind of event out here, okay? And if there is, sometimes like you have to drag these, like this could come out a little, because I want to make sure that the drums go out as to the end of the fade, okay? But it doesn't have to go all the way out to here. So now, so as long as you have one event marking where you want the actual song file to end, and then you hit Control A and it selects. But there's a way to cheat, okay? So if you see right now, by default, it selects project. So if you have events out here, and you go to export the project, it will add that whole long space at the end of your file. And you don't want that. Believe me, you don't want that, because if you upload it to YouTube or something and put a video to it, you're going to have this big long space at the end where people are going to be sitting and saying, what the heck is this? All right? So you want only like 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds after the song fades. And you want, in the beginning, you only want 2 or 3 seconds before the song starts. Okay? So sometimes you accidentally put more than 2 or 3 seconds at the beginning, and if you don't want to have to like learn how to chop a section out of a whole song, so you can slide everything back a few seconds, okay? Cakewalk has now given us an easier way to do this, okay? And up here in the left-hand corner at the top, if you hit selection, okay, then what you can do, instead of going in and making sure there's no events here, okay, you select all first, okay, so that everything, you click a track and make sure that you're in this area, okay, then you hold control and hit A, and it will select everything, okay, but then you just bring, maybe this is helpful here to bring this up, then you just come up here and say, all right, what I want is really just this. And you see, then, and, or you can say like something like this. You can say, I want to go here, but I want to I don't want that much at the beginning of the song. I want a few less seconds at the beginning. And you see what it does? By dragging across this timeline, it selects everything in your project, okay? But it allows you to cut a couple seconds or a measure or something off the beginning. If it's just like too long, it's like, well, I didn't expect to have 10 seconds at the beginning of the song. That's too long. You only want maybe 3 or 4 seconds at the beginning of the song. You don't want 10. All right. So this is a way to come in and drag and select all. You have to have everything selected in order to avoid these like errant events that end up past here. Getting the Cakewalk will detect them as part of your song, and sometimes it will actually like they'll go way far out. Sometimes it puts these errant little like a little dot like that. So if I have a dot out here like on one of these lines, it won't matter as long as I select this selection to export selection, not project, but selection, and I drag across and select exactly what I want for the selection. And in this case, I actually want all of this file. So I'm going to go probably about here and drag it all the way to the beginning of the song. I want all of the measures at the beginning. And see, now it just dragged and grabbed the whole beginning of the song. As long as these are all selected and you see these all turn white and you see all of these turn kind of dark gray, and you'll see, you look at the end of your song, okay, and you see that they protrude out just far enough where where it gives them a few seconds, okay, because you're going to have a few seconds before the next song starts on your album, okay. So you only want about 3 or 4 seconds here for this to end, and then maybe 3 or 4 seconds for the next song to start, okay. And I would say probably a maximum of 8 seconds, which is kind of a long pause between songs. So maybe even 6 seconds. There's a certain standard. Okay, I don't know what it is, but I usually go like 3 or 4 seconds at the end and 3 or 4 seconds at the beginning of each song. That's about what I do. Okay, and so once you have all of this selected, now I guess you can click this export, but I don't do that. Okay, what I do is I go, because I do it the old way. I'm not sure what'll happen if I click on that, but what I do is I go up to File and I go Export and select Audio. So we'll do that again. I click on, once I have all this selected, all right, you don't have to select down here. You have to select up in here, okay? You have to select all your tracks that you want, and you could hold the control key and turn off a few tracks if you don't, like maybe you don't want the vocals, or maybe you want to make a karaoke version, that without the vocals. Well, then once they're all selected, you could hold the control key and click on these and deselect a few, all right? So, but once you have what's selected, what you want in your final song, then you go File, Export, Audio, okay? And this is going to pop up. Now, I'm going to want to put, you want to decide where you want to put this. You can put it on your desktop. I usually put them to my desktop, okay? Now, before I do this export, I'm going to talk about one thing, okay? Another thing, and that is saving projects, okay? Now, this project, okay, I'm going to save this right now. Control S saves it. Hold Control and hit S once, and that saves the project, unless you haven't saved it yet. And if you haven't saved it yet, then you have to give it a new file name, okay? And let's say, okay, saving projects, okay, File. So let's go Save As, and let's pretend that I haven't saved this already, okay? Now, I'm going to go up one level, okay, because this is where all of my current songs that I'm working on. So what'll happen is it will take you into your Cakewalk projects folder, okay, automatically. So when you open a new Cakewalk file, and I record at 96 by 24, okay, 96 kilobits and kilohertz, and 96 kilohertz and 24 bit. Okay, that's what I've been recording at recently. Okay, but your computer, if it's not really that strong, you might have to go at 48 kilohertz 24 bit. Okay, and so which is okay too. Most of my songs were recorded in that, but now I everything is in 96 and 24. Okay, so I create a file. You don't want to like open up Cakewalk and start a project and work in it for hours and then say, okay, how do I save it? No, you want to save it before you put anything in it, okay? And even anything before you put anything. So you create the new project, okay? And then you go up to here and you go File and you go Save As, all right? And it's going to take you to your because this is already a project, it's taking me into the Desire bin that's created. But what you do is you go to your Cakewalk projects, okay, and it'll be a folder where you're supposed to save all your projects, and you just give it a file name and leave the CWP, and you click, and then you click Save, all right. And what Cakewalk does when you do that, okay, is Cakewalk creates a folder automatically, okay? And then it puts this project file inside that folder. Plus, it also creates an audio folder for all of your WAV files, a Melodyne folder if you're using Melodyne, and this mix scenes folder, whatever that is, okay? It creates these folders. Plus, it creates your project, your Cakewalk project file. And of course you're going to come up with some kind of name, even if you don't know the name of the song yet, all right? Like that's what I did. I didn't know what this song was going to sound like at all. I just said, I need a file name, so I called it Desire, okay? Because I knew it was going to be like a techno song. And I knew it was going to have something to do with romance. So I just said Desire. And so so then I typed in the file name here, and I was looking at this area, okay, and it kind of like it's like you don't feel like you should just save it, like you should create a folder and put it inside the folder so it keeps things. You don't have to do that. Cakewalk does that automatically, okay? So all you have to do is wherever your project, it's all built into Cakewalk. Cakewalk it's part of the paths, so it always saves it into the Cakewalk project folder. And so all you have to do is give it a file name and click Save. And then the next time you come in, you go to save it again. If you want to save it with the new name, it will bring you into the project folder that it created with the audio and all of these. It will bring you in there. You don't have to create any folders or do anything. You just give it a file name and click Save, and it will create those folders, okay? Now, after you've worked a while on your project, what can happen is you can be working on your project and you're playing the file, and Cakewalk, every once in a while your sound card glitches out. It just like you ask it to do something and it says, what, you want me to add 8 million times 60 billion, and your sound card just says no way, and it just conks out, and Cakewalk will freeze up. And if you're in the middle of trying to save your song, or it freezes up and you try to save it, when you go back to open up your project, it's going to say, oh, only half of it got saved, and now it's truncated, and we can't read this file, okay? And so you lose hours, almost days worth of your work, okay? And so that's why if you add a new vocal, or you add, the some synthesizers, or you do the drum track, or you edit the vocals, okay? You always come in and save your file and put a 1 after it, then a 2, and then a 3. And so I'm going to go save as. Now you're going to see that there's Desire and there's Desire 1. Okay, so you can go back to previously saved versions, okay? If your latest version gets corrupted because you saved it in the middle of a crash or something, you can go back to the previous one. You might lose a little work, but you won't lose your whole song. Okay? And the reason why I bring this up, and you might say, well, this isn't really that important. When are we going to get to how to save the project? Well, when you do a mix down, see now this up here, it says Desire 1. So when I make the WAV file or the MP3 from this, I'm not going to name it Desire because it's not a mix down or a render of the Desire file, okay? This will be a render of Desire 1, okay? And so when I go to export, I'm going to look up here and say what version project is this? Desire X1, Desire 2, Desire 3, what version of this song? And so when I go to save this, I'm going to type in Desire 1. Okay? All right, Desire 1. And okay, now this is another section, okay, that you have to learn. Now this is now you've got your things selected, okay? You've got this you have your tracks all selected. The section of your tracks that you want selected, you have this button click selection here up top, so it won't do the whole project. It will just do what you have selected, okay? Now you look up in your project and you see this I have 9624. Most people will work at 4824. So if I'm going to save this as a WAV file, this is Desire 1. Okay, I got a space in there. This is Desire1.wav, okay? I'm going to set this at 96 and 24. And then this dithering, since I'm not changing the sample rate or bit rate, I don't need dithering, okay? If you're going to change this, like this is at 24-bit, 96, if I'm going to move this down to 16 and 48, okay, so that it can go on a website or something, then you put dithering on, okay, at power 3 dithering, okay? Always use power 3. Don't worry about any of these. Just always use power 3. Okay, but if it's going to stay the same as your project, 96 and 24, you don't need any dithering, okay? Now, if you're going to save this as a WAV file, you should always save the WAV file at what your project is. Save it the highest quality that you have, which is 9624. If your project is 4824, then save this as at 4824. Always save it. Never take a WAV file and bring it down to like 44 or whatever. Always keep the WAV file at the same as your project, so you don't have to mess with dithering. And you always have dithering at none. You shouldn't have to touch any of these, okay? All of these checks, they should all be automatically checked the way you need them. So it will export all your effects and all the buses and everything You don't need to touch any of this, okay? Just leave that, all of these at the original state, okay? None of these will be wrong, okay? So, all right, this is how you make a wave file. Is you always keep it at the same as your project. 96, 24, 48, 24, 44, 24, whatever your project is for the sample rate and the bit rate, just keep them the same for the wave. Don't go up, don't go down, just keep them the same as your project. But for an MP3, okay, now this is where it gets sticky, okay? Because I I have Cakewalk. I bought Cakewalk before it was free. I paid $800 for Cakewalk. Okay. Now Cakewalk got bought by a very wonderful company, and the owner and all this awesome person to come in and buy Cakewalk and keep it alive. And he made it for free. All right, so everybody can have it for free. But there's a kind of an issue with MP3s because WAV files are like I don't know for sure. I would like to say like public domain, and so anybody can make a WAV file with Cakewalk. They're like the industry standard. They're uncompressed, so it's just like just saving your file without any kind of compression. Okay, so it's uncompressed. It's raw, sort of. And so, but it has all your effects. It has all that stuff. It has all of these things that you've built into it. But it's not using compression to make the file smaller. Okay? And so what happened was back when the internet was very slow and everybody was on telephones, just to send an MP3 that was like be 3 megabytes over a phone line, it could take like half of a night to send 3 megabytes. Okay? Now, if a song, this is where some math comes in, okay? And I'm going to give you the math so that this video is complete, so you understand exactly what's happening here, okay? But the a 3-minute song for an MP3 would be 3 megabytes, okay? So, but a 3-minute song for a WAV file is 30 megabytes. And that's roughly, it's actually a 12 to 1, so it's actually more. But I'm going to just round these figures out for you, okay? So a WAV file is actually 12 times bigger than an MP3. So, but let's just, for the sake of making our math a little easier, let's just round that 12 down to 10. Because sometimes, depending on the algorithms of the compression, it can be around 10. Let's just, for the sake of keeping it simple, say that a WAV file is 10 times bigger than an MP3 file, okay? And that's why everybody shares MP3s over the internet, okay? Because, you know, to send a 30 megabyte file, most people's internet's like really fast broadband. You can send a 30 megabyte file in like maybe a minute or a couple minutes, depending on how fast your broadband is. You know, maybe 5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. A 30 megabyte file. But a 3 megabyte file you can send within a few seconds, okay? And so that's why people use MP3s. But in this MP3 are all of these things called compression algorithms, okay? And they were invented by a man in Germany and his last name was Fraunhofer, okay? And he created and it's the same for a JPEG, MPEG, MP3. They all stand for a compressed file, okay? But what these algorithms do is, I don't know if I want to go too deep into this, but if you think, I'll go a little deeper, okay? Is that if you think of a blue ball on a black background, a picture of a blue ball on a black background, okay? You can, of an image like something you'd post in a on Facebook or something, a meme or something, but all that's on the meme, there's no letters, no nothing. All that's on there is a blue ball on a black background, okay? Well, the computer can save each little pixel and say this pixel's black, that pixel's black, and there's like all the background pixels will be black, and then the blue ball, most of them will be blue, but just slightly varying colors of blue, okay? And so you've got a blue ball on a black background. And so the computer will save each dot, each pixel, and of the screen of the picture. And so there might be like a few thousand pixels there. And each pixel, the computer will save that piece of data each piece of data, and so you'll end up with a file that's huge because it saved the data of how bright each pixel was, what color each pixel was, what position each pixel was on the page. So it's not just that each pixel gets saved, all this information about each pixel gets saved, okay? So, but what if you could just tell the computer and say, this is just a blue ball on a black background, okay? And so the computer puts a blue ball up there on a black background, and you can't, and when you see this picture and the other picture, you can't tell the difference. They're both a blue ball on a black background. And so one file has each pixel and all that data, and the other file has two pieces of data, a blue ball on a black background. That's it. And that's the difference between that's what compression algorithms do, is they take these complicated scenes and it applies algorithms to say well, you got 100 dots that go across the top. Why don't we just say line 1 is 100 times black, and the next line is 100 times black, until we get down to the line where the lines where the blue balls start to appear out of it. And then we got 50 lines black, 60 lines. You see that instead of having to save each dot and every, if they're all the same color, why not just say 100 times black, instead of saying this dot is black, that dot is black, that dot is black, and each piece is a different piece of information. Okay, so that's what MP3s are. I'm going to go into depth with this so that you understand what these are, okay? And so a WAV file doesn't have any algorithms, or at least it has very few, okay? But an MP3 has algorithms like crazy. And so those algorithms were all devised by this very smart man, Fraunhofer. And what he did was he patented those algorithms. And he patented the MP3 file. All right, well, I hope he got rich. I think he did get very, very rich. But a lot of people fought him on this and said, it encroaches on, everybody should be able to save their files, and they shouldn't have to pay you a penny every time they do. But he sort of won. He won because he had the patent, and he came up with the idea, and it took other companies like Microsoft and all billions of dollars to create their own type of MP3 file, like WMV files and all of these that had algorithms in them, and they were able to kind of slip through these files, and the courts didn't seem to object to other people having files with algorithms, but it was the MP3 files that caught on, and they were all owned. That technology was owned by this Fraunhofer. The reason why I had to go into this big story about MP3 files is because Cakewalk allows you to select this MP3 out of the list. Look at all the other ones, and a lot of these other ones are also there's Apple's version of the MP3, and all of these, the WMB, the format, I think, and there's broadcast wave, there's time cap, there's all these. There's only two here that you need to worry about, okay? Out of all of these files, okay, is the top wave one, all right? You're either going to export with that, or you're going to export with this MP3, okay? And this is where the problem comes in, because, okay, now with the MP3, you can't save the MP3. You could save it at 48, but I don't know that you just don't do that, okay? And you save it as 16-bit, okay? 16-bit at 44 kilohertz. So just when you select MP3, you select 44 and 16. And then because you're lowering the bit rate, you're lowering the hertz and all of that, you have to add this dithering, okay? And what that does is it adds a little bit of noise to kind of help the fact that you've taken it from a big file and kind of shrunk it down into something smaller. In order to do that, you have to cut pieces out, okay? And so they add just a tiny bit of noise to it, like something you can barely perceptibly hear, to kind of smoothen out all the pieces that got cut out, okay? And that's what you're doing. You're taking a 96, a song that's very high HD, very very high HD, and you're making it into a lower quality, but it's not low enough where you can really tell the difference audibly. It's still filling the human hearing. That's not like going to sound like a telephone or something. It's still, but it's compressed, okay? It's compressed. They've used these algorithms, but in the end, when you listen to the WAV file and you listen to the MP3 file, you can't tell the difference, okay? But it's been lowered in its sampling rate. It's been lowered in its bit depth, okay? But it's lowered enough to still be HD to the ear, so that your ear can't tell the difference between the 96, which is the really high quality, and the 44, okay? Your ear, most people are going to listen to either one of these and say, oh, they're fine. They're both fine. So then why do we record at 96? Well, it's because you end up, all of your effects, they all kind of mesh together better, so that the final process, the final product that you have, is crystal clear. And so that then and that final mix, you can then compress it down to like 44 and 16, but what you get is going to be the most pristine product you can give. Okay, so that is why we use the MP3, okay? Because it's 1/10 or 1/12 the size of a WAV file. It's small, it's tiny. You could theoretically throw it in an email and send it to somebody. I wouldn't advise doing that, but it only takes a few seconds to upload it to the internet. That's why, because it's 3 megabytes instead of 30 megabytes, okay? And a 5-minute song would be 50 megabytes. That's a lot of megabytes. That's a big difference on a file that you're going to play and not really be able to tell the difference, okay? So, so, but the problem is that this Fraunhofer still owns this MP3 uh, technology. I don't know. Maybe the patent ran out after so many years. It's been over 20 years that these MP3s have been around. And so when you click this export button, okay, here, this this is pops up, okay. Now when I cancel this, I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to go File, Export. Now when I go to Wave, okay, and I put in the desire one.wave. All right. Now I put that desire one and I click wave, and then I go to my 96 and my 24 and make sure there's no dithering because I'm not changing, and I click export. It's just going to export it, okay? Because it's not applying any of those algorithms that are owned by Fraunhofer, okay? It's not applying any. It's just straight. It's exactly what you see is what you get, okay? It's taking every dot and every last little pixel and everything and throwing the whole kitchen sink in, and there's no compression at all, okay? And that's why it will just save. It's 9624. But if you switch this to MP3, then that automatically switches that down to 44 and 16. And if it doesn't, you have to make sure it does, okay? You don't want a 48 sample rate MP3. It allows you to do it, but you don't want it. You want to go with 44 sample rate, okay? And 16. And then you want to put this on power 3. But when you do that, then if this doesn't pop up, okay, then there's a problem with your Cakewalk, okay? And you need what's called the lame encoder. And I had to purchase this separately from Cakewalk, okay? And it allows you to export and use the Fraunhofer algorithms to create an MP3, okay? And so this extra little box pops up, and I'll show you what I do whenever I create it. I go to 320 because that's the kilobits per second. That's the highest quality MP3 in 44 kilohertz you can make, okay? So always go to 320, all right? Always make your MP3 at 320, always. And then quality, I don't know what that does, but I always drag it to for better because I want the best quality possible. All right, because they're applying all these algorithms. I don't need the file that small. Okay, it's still going to give me about a 3 megabyte file. Okay, and then the title would be desire. You don't want to put the one after it in here. This is going to be up here in their player, like in their phone. When they click on your song, it's going to pop up and say desire. You don't want it to say desire 1, okay? You only want that in the file name. You don't want that. And then Rex Red. All right, year 2021. Comments, copyright 2021. Rex Red. Okay, you don't know how many millions of times I've typed these. And then you pick the kind of music. Okay, this is... you click down on this drop down, and then I'm going to hit the D key, and that takes me to the D's, and I'm going to select dance. Okay, so if it was folk, then you'd hit the F key, or what. You don't click inside. You click on the drop down, and then you click like F for folk. Okay, or you click the drop down D, and for dance. Okay, now I'm ready to save this. Okay, and I just click OK, and it's going to take about maybe 5 minutes to render this all down, and wherever you told it to save the file, whether if it's your desktop or wherever, that's where it's going to go. Okay, now if this MP3 box doesn't pop up, okay, then because I have the old Cakewalk and I had to buy this. I had to buy this export. And Fraunhofer got money from that sale, okay? This lame encoder, the money goes to him, okay? And you're going to have to find the lame encoder, okay, in order to export directly to MP3. Now, if it pops up, then Cakewalk is either the patent has run out and now everybody's allowed to use it, or Cakewalk has made some kind of deal with Fraunhofer in order to allow you to use his algorithms and encode this into an MP3, okay? And so it's so that it's 12 times smaller than a WAV file, and so that you can share it on and sell it on, sell your music online and everything. Okay. And usually and if you pick this 320, you won't have any artifacts. You'll have the cleanest, most perfect MP3, and you will not really be able to tell the difference between this file and the WAV file. It's not completely lossless. Okay, it does lose a little bit of quality, but you won't be able to hear it really. Okay, so if this pops up, then you have the lame encoder, okay, with the free version of Cakewalk. If it doesn't, then you have to go on the Cakewalk forums and ask and say, how do I get the lame encoder? And I'm sure there's some way people are getting it. You probably will have to buy it if it doesn't come free with Cakewalk. If it comes free with Cakewalk, then Cakewalk has made some kind of deal with Fraunhofer, okay? That every person who downloads it, Cakewalk gives them a penny or something, okay? So, now, when should you use an MP3 and when should you use a WAV file, okay? Well, that depends on the website that you're working with. Like there's Cry something CDs. There's Crybaby or something CDs. There's Reverb Nation. There's Apple Music. There's Google Music, YouTube Music. There are just hundreds of music sites out. Spotify, okay? And then there are music sites like TuneCore and music sites like iMusician Digital and Napster. And okay, so you get the point. All of these different websites have a different criteria. And so what you have to do is you have to go to them and you have to do a Google search and say, what if I'm submitting music to, say, Spotify or Pandora, what quality do they want the music in? Okay, and so you have to go and Google that, and you'll find it. It'll list Pandora and say, in the Google search, it'll say Pandora. In order to upload music to Pandora, it has to be a .wav file, and it has to be no lower quality than, say, 48 kilohertz 24-bit. Okay, and all right, so what if you only have an MP3 of your file, and your MP3 is only going to be, you made the MP3 from a 44 kilohertz file with 16-bit. So you don't go and bring that into Cakewalk and then save it again and up those. You don't up sample it, okay? If it's below that requirement, there's nothing you can do. Okay, it's not high enough quality for that music service. Okay, period. If but if you save your files, that's why you always save your WAV files as high as your project, 9624. So you don't save them lower. Okay, you always save them. You don't save them higher. You just save them the way your project is. 9624 will work on any music site. Okay, you may have to convert it into an MP. You may have to lower the quality, but the quality. I think there might be some music sites that expect the music to be even higher than 96. Okay, but they don't have a huge following. Okay, they're not mainstream. In fact, I believe 48 is probably acceptable for like all sites like Apple Music and iMusician, TuneCore. Okay, so that's the rule: is you never take like a compressed MP3, bring it into Cakewalk, and then save it as a 9624. Okay, you never do that because you're not improving the quality one single drop. In fact, you're losing quality because you're resampling it one more time. Okay? So that's why you set your projects. If you plan to sell your music on like Apple Music or in these places, Amazon Music, if you plan on selling them albums in these stores, most of those big stores expect it to be at least 16-bit and 48 kilohertz. Okay, so if your song is at 16-bit and 48 kilohertz, you'll probably be okay. But a lot of them do not accept MP3 files. It has to be right from your DAW saved as a WAV file. Okay? So that's going to give you. So what I always do every time I make a song is I always save the WAV file at my projects, 9624, and if I'm working in a 48 16-bit, I'll save it at 48. I always save it at the highest quality that my project is. Okay, and I save it as that project, and then I also make an MP3 so I can just share it on the websites that allow you to just upload something and share it with a bunch of people. Facebook or whatever, you want to share a song on Facebook or something, they'll take any file. And it only takes a moment to upload it. And so I make two files. I make one file that is a WAV file. That's going to be for like publishing an album, like in the highest quality possible. Okay, so I'll make that WAV file because I can always take that WAV file and bring it into Cakewalk and save it as something lower in quality, or like as an MP3, or if it's 9624, I can save it as a WAV file that's 4816 or whatever. It can always go lower. Okay, so I always save it as my project as a WAV file, so I have that file. Okay, so that if some website says, well, that's too high a quality for our website, then I can always bring it into Cakewalk and just lower the quality. You can't raise it, but you can lower it. Okay, and then I also save it as an MP3 at that 320 kilohertz. Okay, I always save it as an MP3 also. Add the at like 44 kilohertz, 16-bit. Add the dithering, okay, the three dithering, and save it as at the 320 kilohertz, the highest quality. I always create the highest quality MP3 that I can, okay? And save them like to your desktop, and it will render this whole set. It will render all the mastering effects. It will render everything. Just because you have this selected, it still will render all the mastering effects and everything that you have in here. All of these sidechain stuff, everything, all of your pro channel, all that. It will render all of it down. What you hear is what you'll get, but you'll get it at 9624 as a WAV file. And then also make an MP3 file, okay? So you have the best of both worlds. You have something that you can just share quickly, send to somebody in an email if they ask for it. And then you also have something that you can upload to these really professional music stores like Amazon Music and iTunes and TuneCore, iMusician Digital. You can that they won't take an MP3. They won't even accept it. You have to have a high quality WAV file, and then then they'll send that out to the stores. And the stores, if never going to make it, they're never going to upsample it to a higher than what you gave them, but they may lower it. Okay, they may lower it a little bit, and if you give them a 9624 file, they may lower it to say 2448 or something like that, 16-bit 48. Okay, but they're never going to raise it up higher than what you gave them. Okay, so and I've never seen anybody demand a 9624 yet, except I think there was a Neil Young service. He had started a service, and I think that was the criterion was at least 9624 or something. They were just audio files that they were people that just absolutely wanted to have the highest quality sound on their music service. So I would say you do good with 9624. I doubt that anybody's that you'll run into any major problems with that. Now, if your music is going to go in a movie, maybe they want it higher than that also. Okay, there's a possibility they might want that higher. If they want it higher, then you start making your projects right from the get-go higher than 9624. Make sure that your DAW and all of this is set to the higher. But I think 9624 is a safe bet. Okay, I don't think most even movies will take. I believe most movies will take 9624. So I think that's going to do it. I think that explains everything that I wanted to say here. And you should have now all of the tools you need to know to understand how to do this, okay? And like I said, if you don't have the MP3, if that doesn't pop up when you select MP3, you're going to have to get the lame encoder. And always make two files. Make a file that's your WAV file, which is whatever your project is, and always make an MP3. Make a WAV file and an MP3 of every song. And sometimes you'll end up with all these versions, like you make an MP3 file of Desire 1 project, and you make a WAV file of Desire 1 project. And then you come in and say, oh, I'd like to add some trumpets there and trumpets there. So you then save it as Desire 2. And then when you make your MP3, name that MP3 file Desire 2 and name that WAV file that you make from that version as Desire 2 also. So that you know which project version the WAV file and the MP3 came from. Okay? All right, that is going to do it. If you have any trouble with this video, watch it over and over and over and over again until it sticks. And if you learn all this, if you learn this video, you will learn how to export your songs from Cakewalk. Okay? That, this, I think this, I don't think I missed a certain, a thing that you need to know when it comes to exporting your your projects. So I think that is going to do it. And thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something. Please like and subscribe. Please like my video and leave comments if there's something that you would like to know. If you'd like to something that you're unclear about, and if you like this song, I didn't play the whole thing, but if you like this song, you can find it. It's been released today on at T as in Tom, rexred.com. That's T as in Tom, trexred.com. And any purchases of my music there helps go to support this website, and so I can buy and have some tea when I need something refreshing to drink. So I'm just kidding. So yes. So thank you for watching. I will be back again soon, and you can find me. You can find my music at trexred.com. Please purchase it, and you will find. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next tutorial on Cakewalk. And thank you very much, Steve, for coming in and for giving me the idea to make this video. I don't think that anybody ever has made and how to export your song from In Cakewalk. So this is a YouTube first. And so it's been a long time coming. I think a lot of people are probably just baffled on how to get their song out of Cakewalk. So this is how, okay? And I think this is an exhaustive explanation of the process. So thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.